Where were you born?
Dublin.
And what date?
6th of July 1898.
Did you come from a musical family?
No.
When did you start to learn to play the clarinet at the Irish Christian Brothers School?
Yes, in Monkstown, County Dublin. I was 9, age 9. It was 1907,
Yeah.
and that's a long time.
Long time ago. Who encouraged you to play?
I wasn't encouraged, I was told. I was given a clarinet, shown the fingering, and that was it.
Was it the old type of clarinet?
Simple system,
Yeah.
13 key.
Did you pick it up quite quickly?
I can't tell. I was 9, but I think when I left school, I was 16, and the war was about to start. In a couple of months' time, I was 16. I was quite a passable clarinet player. Possible, yes.
So what sort of music would you play around? Military?
It was military. Yes, the Gilbert and Sullivan, Soupe, and all those, and the operas, the Verdi operas, the simple ones.
So when you left school, which I suppose must have been 1914 then?
What?
What did you do immediately after leaving school?
I got a job in a bank.
In Dublin?
In Dublin.
And so you...
And I left it in 1917. I joined the army.
And you were still playing the clarinet?
Yes, I was playing the clarinet because Dublin had a couple or three very fine town bands of the military type, that is brass and reed. And I was in the one called Ireland's Own Band. And I think that we were better than the others. Very good, because they were nearly all ex-military men.
Yeah. So they were well trained.
Oh, indeed, indeed. And but in 17, I joined the army. But actually, I joined the cavalry, the yeomanry, my local yeomanry regiment, the South Irish Horse. And it was 17, and presumably they didn't want cavalry in France. They had it out east, Allenby and those people. We were transferred, 700 of us, 350 to the Dublin Fusiliers and 300 to the Leinster Regiment. And I was Dublin man into the
Fusiliers.
Dublin Fusiliers, you see.
So did you have to train? You have to do training there?
I was trained as a cavalryman for 4 months, and then 2 weeks as an infantryman. 2 weeks. France. Straight up to the front line. It was around about, where is it, Goosey Corps, Hamlin Corps. They were all, every place we were at. I think the railhead was Perron, and it seemed to be the places we stopped ended in Corps, C-O-U-R-T, and there is the front line. I think it was the old Hindenburg line, but I'm not sure. Some of the trenches were out of this world. They went down two flights.
Were they as dirty and horrible as they looked like they were looking at old films?
Ours were horrible. Theirs were wonderful. The Hindenburg line was wonderful places. They were. But they were facing the wrong way, you see. If the Germans say this is the front line, and if it was us, we'd be facing this way, facing the Germans. But the Germans would be facing that way. When they took it, all the openings were at the back of the trench. So a shell could very well come down and go down right down the stairs.
Into the trench itself.
However, that was 17. then we had to do a route march to relieve, a force march to relieve the guards. They were having a heck of a time at Cambrai. This must have been October 17. I'm not sure, it would be October. We did this force march. We relieved the guards. They'd had a heck of a pasting, but they were wonderful crowds of guards. Division, and I'm talking about division, because we were the 16th Irish Division. See? And there we stuck in these trenches, because it was getting on winter, and they usually sat down and looked at one another until it was time to get going again in the spring. In the winter, there was an army order because fellows were getting trench feet, frozen feet and all that sort of thing. And you were issued with whale oil. So you came down, put up the periscope, you sat down on the fire step, and you had to take off your puttees. We wore puttees those days. You had to take off your puttees and socks after taking off your ammos, and you're supposed to whale oil your feet. Well, I did that on Boxing Day, 17, Boxing Day, because we were in the trenches, Christmas Day, but Boxing Day. I did all this, and when it came to put my socks on, I couldn't do that. I couldn't put my socks on. So, platoon sergeant, what's wrong with you, Jeanette? I said, I can't put my socks on. And I've done all this whale oil business. So he said, well, you better wrap your puttees around them and get down to the dressing station. So I did that. When I came out of I was loaded with rifle and everything, you know. And my trousers were hanging over the puttees, and the puttees were around my feet. So just outside the communication trench, I walk into the brigadier with his entourage, which included our colonel, our adjutant, our regimental sergeant major, and his ADC. The brigadier's ADC is, who are you, soldier? I told him. He says, what's wrong with you? I said, I put the whale on my feet, and I couldn't get my socks on. My feet are swollen. I was 19 at the time. He says, you know, it's against army orders. I said, well, I did as I was told in the army orders. I had whale on my feet. So you'll hear more about this. Take his name. But I never heard another word.
Isn't that
ridiculous? You did ask my age, you know. You'll hear more about this. And that night, I was on a train to Rouen, the first Australian general, in bed. Marvellous, marvellous. And the following day, his sister, an Australian sister, said I must have looked very young. So I know I look younger than my 87 years now. Yes. But those days, I must have looked, not looked 19. She said, there's room for one sitting patient. Can you walk and then sit? I said, I can do that. I would have done anything. I would have stood on my head. And because there was a Rouen near Larve, and the hospital ship was at Larve, off we went to. I managed it, sat down and everywhere I could. And we got to Southampton. And as we're going up Southampton Water, it's late 17. It's nearly 1918, the last few days of the year. And I heard a fella say, oh, there's, I think it's Haslar Hospital. He said, I hope we don't stay there. I said, why? What's wrong with it? He said, that's a naval hospital. It's terrible. It's regimental, too regimental. But anyway, the upshot, I got into a place, and Now, I was in Dorsetshire, which is on the other bank, owned by an ex-colonel of the 10th Hussars, and his wife and daughters and friends were all the Queen Alexandra's nursing yeomanry, Queen Alexandra nursing yeomanry, and it was a city place, really city. There was only about 20 or 30 patients. We were in a marquee in the ground. Marvellous.
So he's treated very well there.
Oh, wonderful. We used to have to come up to the house for treatment. Mine consisted in having my feet massaged. And after 6 weeks, I was transferred to because I was getting better, I was transferred to a convalescent camp in Tipperary in Ireland. And there was about 3,000 or 4,000 convalescents, all in squads of getting better.
I see. Yes, like progressing into convalescence. Yeah.
Yes, you start at the back, and each week you move
forward until you get kicked out when you're well. Yeah.
When you get to the top one, you're ready for go back to your regiment.
Yeah.
Which is what happened.
You went back
after 6 weeks. I used to go down to the town, to the hospital, and there they had what they call the Sir Almeric Paget Massage Corps. Sir Almeric Paget, P-A-G-E-T, Paget Massage Corps, and sit there for an hour or something with my feet in baths, foot baths, with an electric thing over the edge, whatever you call it, into the water.
Yeah, like an element.
Yes.
Yeah. And
it's funny, when I put my feet in, you can cut this if you like, but my toes used to turn up like that immediately. Yeah. But I got better.
So you went back? Did you go back to France?
Not to France, to next door to Grimsby, and there, the old ball. You got to get fit. You got to have drills and all the rest of it. But you get fed up. You've been already out there, it's boring. Boom. And because there were quite a few fellas
in the same, feeling the same way.
Being out there, and I couldn't take it. So the fellas started volunteering to go back. So I did the same.
Go back to the front line?
Yes, I'm still 19 and a half. It's, February or something?
1918.
March. And I was one, I think there were 29 of us. I tried to make 30, we couldn't. 29, and off we went. Got up to Cali, and then we were, because you never know where your regiment is. We got on a train, we were supposed to be going to where our battalion was. And this was after the 26th of March due, because on the 25th or 26th of March, I forget which day it was, there was the British Army and the French were nearly thrown out of France because the Germans had made a terrific push. And they pushed the British Army back. That's when I think General Gough was supposed to be in the wrong, and he got the push for it. Because we were in his army, the 4th Army, I think it was the 4th Army or 5th. Anyway, I eventually found my regiment. That was in Dieppe, about 7 miles in, or 7 kilometers in from the coast, because we used to go down to the water's edge. So Schiedel was worse than Brighton. Terrible. And they began to, the 16th division had been finished and wiped out, and we were in the 50th, which was a Northumbrian division, And we eventually I joined the. I asked to go into the drums because the drums had flutes. It's about the same technical difficulty as a clarinet. But basically, it's the same fingering. It's got 6 holes with a few extra keys on it, you know. And it was a piece of cake, really. And the drum major was looking for people, and I'd been offered a stripe in my platoon. I said, "I'm sorry, sir. I've been asked to join the drums." "Oh well," he said, "if you want to join the drums, okay, you go ahead." So I did. All I wanted with the drums was to sleep at night, because that's what I never had the first time I'd been out. It was always, you do guards, it's 2 hours on and 4 hours off. It's all you think of, eating and sleeping.
Was there enough food as well?
Oh yes, but it was all army food.
Yeah.
It was bully beef stew.
Yeah.
And bully biscuits. You know, the hard
biscuits, yeah.
Biscuits. There was army issued cigarettes, but you bought them.
Yeah.
There were the Ruby Queen and other things. There was no such thing as players or anything like that.
No.
Anyway, came August, and we started to move up. And then it was all out, no trenches from August onwards.
Just overground.
Overground on the surface. And we moved forward and forward. And we came to Bombay. At one time, a whole fleet of London buses came up for our brigade. And then we got to these, because the Germans had pulled out so quickly during the night, there was no sign.
Yeah.
And we followed it, caught up with them. Frankly, I never had any hand-to-hand business. It was always firing, they were always in the distance, you know. But the drums, we played.
Played all the way up?
Yes, all the way up. And we stopped at Maubesh, Mauberge, Maubesh, or Buge. I think it's near the Rhine somewhere, getting on. It's near the Bulge, where the Bulge happens in the last war. If you've read any of the last war, you have.
Battle of the Bulge.
Remember the Bulge is where the Americans got a real
kicking,
a real kick in the pants they got there, Bulge. Well, that's where we stopped, Maubesh. And people used to say, ask me what happened. Frankly, nothing. Nothing. There was no hijinks, nothing like that. And shortly after, I think one of the last drafts we got of young soldiers, an old soldier talking, young soldiers, was Welshmen. They were the last to be called up. Back home, they needed coal, both for ships as well.
Yeah, so they were down the mines.
Yeah. And they were the first to be demobilized because the government wanted miners. And there was nearly a riot in my regiment because some of the fellas had been out since 1914.
Yeah.
Because the regiment had been there in 1914.
And they had to carry on while the Welshmen went home.
Exactly. But it didn't happen. It was very near. Anyway, we started to move back to a place called Lequesnoy, Lequesnoy, Lequesnoy. It had been in German hands right through the war, you see, and we lay there until July, and the regiment was gradually getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the fellas get demobilized. And those that stayed, who were the regulars, were making up back home in Aldershot. They were making up the new 2nd Battalion, you see. So we had 2 2nd Battalions, one in France and one building in Aldershot. And when the band came out to join us in Le Canois, we're all boys. They're under 18. And the RSM, with whom I was very friendly, matter of fact, I was his backman. He must have told the bandmaster, because the bandmaster and the RSM are usually the only two first-class warrant officers.
Mm.
And
all the others are
friends.
Yeah.
See, they're usually friendly.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And he must have told the bandmaster that his batman was a musician. Because this bandmaster sent for me, and he said, "Would you like to stay on in the army?" I says, "I'm a civvy. I'm a civvy. How do you join for the war?" I said, "I'd be demobilised." He said, "Have you ever heard of Kneller Hall?" I said, "No." So he told me about Kneller Hall, Royal Military School of Music in Whitton. It's midway between Hounslow and Twickenham. And he told me about it. The professors were all from the London Academy of Music, Royal Academy, Royal Academy, and Royal College.
So they were top people.
And they were the tops. And he's, what happened? And just then, this is January 1919. The first army order of 1919 was to the effect that if anyone wanted to rejoin the army, because they got the wind up, there were 4 million in the army, and they have 4 million, they
wanted to join home.
To mobilisation. There'd be no army. So they offered £50 to anybody who would take on for 4 years. So I took on for 4 years, and the bandmaster said, not 7 and 5, that was the regular thing. 7 on the regular, 5 on the reserve. I said, no, 4. They're offering £50. He said, all right, Jeanette. I said, you promise? He said, I promise. So I joined the band on flute, because he hadn't got a flute player. Well, he had a boy.
Where were they stationed?
Le Canois, Lequesnoy, Le Canois. We were stationed there for 7 months. Anyway, I joined the band, and I used to play with them every day, and I was still batman to the RSM. And we gradually got home. The regiment was reduced. The regiment in France was reduced, and it was reduced to the CO, the adjutant, a lieutenant for the colours. They'd come out with the band, a lieutenant, and 2 colour sergeants, the RSM, a corporal in charge of the what's the name gear, the signalling gear, and the band had gone on, and I was there. I was supposed to be the bugler. I couldn't blow a bugle. A brass instrument.
Yeah, different.
I hadn't a clue. But I used to have to get out at 6 o'clock, you know.
Yeah.
And we were in a French barracks in Le Canois. And I used to have to play Reveille, only Reveille and Lights Out. That was on, those two. And I'd had a bit of practice, you know. Bloody hell. You know, to have a clarinet player, a flute player.
Yeah.
But it's army orders. You've got to do that. I mean, that the things have got to be blown. I mean, that the Reveille has got to happen. Not in the front line, of course, but in
the barracks. Yeah.
See, we got in home from where? Harfleur. The Harf.
No.
The Harf. And we got to Badajoz barracks. There I got demobbed. But I was still on my 4 years. I was playing with the band. I joined them. I got my 3 months leave, to mobilisation leave, and although I was a regular soldier now, but you still got your 3 months, and you got your gratuity. I think I got £31 something gratuity those days, and got myself a new civvy suit. I couldn't wear the other thing. Oh no, I wasn't issued with one because I was a regular soldier now.
Yeah.
But there was a tailor the officers used to go to, so I had myself a suit.
Yeah.
There's always supposed to be a fancy dresser, you know. And see?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I came back after my mob leave from Dublin, and time crept up, and I'm supposed to be waiting for a vacancy at Nella Hall. And this is the end of 1919, the night of the Joe Beckett Carpentier fight. Our battalion was scheduled for Hyder Pasha near Constantinople, Turkey. So when you got to go, you got to go. Not I. I was sent to the 1st Battalion, who were in not far from Aldershot, barracks out in the sticks. I went with them to wait until a vacancy came through, so I naturally played with the band there. The regiment had gone off to Hyder Pasha, Haidarpasha, Hyder Pasha, because they were expecting, Lloyd George was Prime Minister, the Ottoman types, they'd been knocked out, and there was a dictator type to pull them together.
Yeah, in Turkey.
In Turkey.
Yeah.
Anyway, in February came Jeannette, Nella Hall. There's a thing in the office, band president sent me, got to keep up the pride with the 2nd Battalion, because there's always a keen competition between the 2 regular battalions of a regiment, 1st and 2nd. Well, 1st is always at home, 2nd abroad. They take turns, 6 years at a time. And it was the 1st had been out in India before the war, and they went to Suvla Bay, but the 2nd Battalion was at home at the beginning of the war, and they went to Mons.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
See, France. Anyway, I went to Nella Hall in February.
1920.
Huh?
1920.
1920.
Yeah.
And the first afternoon, I saw a lot of fellows practicing in the grounds, spacious grounds. You know. So I got one of those desks. The trees have got a hook in all the trees, and you bought your desk. And the following morning, I'm sent for and told the adjutant was to see me. He said, "You should be on a charge." I said, "Why, sir?" He said, "Don't you know you got to go to school?" I said, "Me? I got to school? Where's a couple of medal ribbons, you know?"
Yeah.
The only pupil who had them, because there were students there going for bandmaster. I said, "I don't go to school." He said, "When you're here, boy, you got to go to school until you get your 1st."
Yeah.
Which is, it's like matriculation without languages. It's as good as that. So you got to go. You got to go. So I went to school every afternoon, 2 hours of school, and I'm learning. I wasn't quite learning 1 and 1 or 2, but it was near that.
Near that.
In my regiment, there were fellows who couldn't read or write, but it wasn't like that because these were all boys, all under 18. And I thought I'd better get out of this quick. So I beezed up and got my 1st in the first couple of months, and I had to go for a second, which was a little more difficult. It took me a few months to get the second. Now, with a first-class certificate, you've got to have a first-class certificate before you can become a first-class warrant officer, and then commissioned, because there are ranks of bandmasters who wear first-class warrant officers who become commissioned.
Commissioned, yeah.
They get the staff bands, all the staff bands. Anyway,
so you had to get this.
I had it in 2 shots. 6 months at a time. I got the first half after 6 months, with the help of the schoolmasters, and then I had to go for the second half. I just scraped it, managed.
So you had it anyway?
I got it, yes. I was sitting in there. That meant now I can practice with the other fellows who already had their first, you see. And when it came to March 1921, I realised there's a thing in the army, it's called the trooping season. It starts around about September, October, and it ends in March. It's the winter season, is when troops move east and southeast of that. So I thought, if I can miss the beginning of the trooping season, because I've already done 2.5 years, and there's only 1.5 years left, and you can't go out to India. This is Jeannette being a bit crafty. You can't. The Indian government won't take you unless you have 3 years to do, because they have to pay your keep and your wages, your salary, while you're in the Indian army, you see, or attached to the Indian army, or you're the British troops in India. So if I can miss that. So I said to the senior student, I want to see the director of music. What's wrong with you? I said, I just want to see, I want to ask a favour. So Stretton, Colonel Stretton, he was the director of music. And this is March. I got up, so I was introduced, at least marched in. What is it you want, corporal? Because they'd made me a corporal by this time.
Because you passed your first.
Yes, more than that. And I was a senior type, you know. Showing a couple of medals, which meant that I was over 20 or 21. What can we do for you, corporal? I said, well, sir, I had never been to school in the army, because I was never a boy. Most of them were boys in the army. I said, and I had to go to school. And I now have my first. But through working so hard to get my first, I'm afraid I neglected my theory of music. My technique was all right, but the theory of music I rather missed out, and I'd like to stay a little longer if you permit. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do, Corporal. I'll give you until the last day in July. I only wanted the last day in April. I'll give you to the last day in July. Does that suit you? Yes, I think I can work up to that date. So I did that. Anyway, what I didn't know at the time was that Stretton had come to his time, and he had to leave in July. And that's all he could give me, because in August he'd be gone. He could only give me until the end of July. But I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, I see, he didn't say that.
Years later that I found out. Anyway, I went back to the 1st Battalion and I played with them, did a few jobs the South Coast, because at that time they still had military bands. Now the British Musicians Union, of which I was on the committee later, they put a stop to that the military bands, except for Eastbourne. Anyway, I played with them until the beginning of the trooping season. That's it. The beginning of the trooping season came in September. It's in the winter, the trooping season, because the other is too hot. From March to September, it's too hot. Even as it was, going down the Red Sea, everybody was sleeping on deck, officers and all. It was shocking. And I was a corporal. Because I was a corporal, I had to do guard, in charge of the guard. They used to have to walk around these fellas and get them up for the next 2 hours. 2 hours on, 4 hours off. Rubbish. Anyway, before I went out to India, the band president, he was ex-2nd Battalion. That's my battalion out in India. He was ex, but he was too old to go out there. But he was finishing his time with the 1st, and he's the band president. So he says to me, he said, "Corporal, the band need you out in India." I said, "But I'm not entitled to go out there. I've only got 1.5 years to do, because I only took on for 4 years. 2.5 have gone." He said, "You're a Roman Catholic?" I said, "You know I am, sir. Only the two of us." I said, "You know I'm a Roman Catholic, Dublin man." He said, "Because, the officers, they pay for your time at Never Hall. That comes out of the officers' band fund, and the cost of the instruments, and the music, and all the rest of it. The officers pay for that. It doesn't come from the army." He said, "And if you refuse to take on," that was the word those days, re-enlist, "you won't be able to stay here. I see that you get transferred, any regiment you like." And of course, if the new bandmaster, you join the band, the new bandmaster that you meet, he won't like you because you've reneged. It's not the right thing to do, is it? You're cheating. You've had a wonderful, from these reports, it says you've done marvellously well, you've got a first-class certificate of education, you want to be a bandmaster now. It's obvious. Says, "But you won't get it." So just then, I said, "I'd like to think about it." "Okay, Jeanette, you think about it. But believe me, I'm right." So I thought, while I'm thinking about it for 24 hours, a new army order comes out. The army had realized that those 4-year men of 1919 have now got 18 months to do, and they can't go to India. They brought out a new one. They made it a 7 and 5. If you take on for 3 and 5 on the reserve, making it the old pre-war 7 and 5, you get £50 bounty. So I took it.
And you went to India?
Yeah, I went out to India. When I saw the band president, he said, "Good for you, Jeanette." He said, "I'm very glad." And he said, "I'm sure you'll do well." Well, I joined the regiment. I got to little town. Shocking place. It's in the Punjab, which is on the borders of Pakistan now. Which is, the Punjab was the first place, if there's any trouble on the northwest frontier,
that's where it started.
They are the advanced troops. Like in Aldershot in peacetime, Aldershot is the 1st Division. And if a war breaks out, that's the one that goes, the 1st Division. More time. But I didn't know that until long years and years afterwards. They gained that second thought. Anyway, it's 21, isn't it? In fact, it's coming up to 22. And being an Irish regiment, we knew what was going on in Whitehall, because Lloyd George was still Prime Minister. and they were chatting to the representatives of the Irish politicians, because they'd been murdered, you know, the black and tans and all that sort of stuff. There'd been a lot of trouble there. Anyway, we moved into 1922.
Which regiment was this?
My own Royal Fusiliers.
Yeah.
See, the 2nd Battalion that I'd been with in France. Came the announcement that they'd got together in Whitehall and agreed on a free state. Well, that meant that the Irish regiments were to be disbanded. And there were 5 Irish regiments with 10 regular battalions, 2 each. They go. The Irish cavalry, they would be merged with other cavalry regiments, like the 5th Lancers, the 5th, 16th Lancers, the 4th, 8th Hussars. They were
all amalgamated.
Amalgamated, yes, like that. But not the infantry had to go.
Yeah.
So you were given the option, several options. You could move to any regiment in the British Army you liked, if they take you, or you could quit. Leave the army.
Well, just like that.
Just like that. Finish. You know, that was the option you had. So, Bandmaster sent for me. He said, "Look," he said, "we've got a couple of letters here. One is from Bombay. You see, in Bombay, there's the Governor of Bombay, Sir George Lyon. There's the Governor of Madras, but they didn't have an orchestra. The Governor of Bengal, he had a big orchestra, because it was a principal city. And there was the Viceroy's band in Delhi and Simla. So he said, they also want solo clarinet, first clarinet, because I was first clarinet in the band, in Delhi. I said, "You're an all hand out here." I said, "What do you recommend?" He said, "Bombay." He says, the band sergeant, the band president, Major French. He says, his friend is the military secretary to the Viceroy. Friend of his. Now he's going to try and talk you into going to Delhi, where it's all duty, because everybody has got to make they come in at Bombay, but they're making for Delhi.
Delhi, yeah.
And he said, if I were you, I'd go to Bombay. But that's what happened. The band president, Major French, he tried to get me to go to thing. I said, no. I said, I like the sea, sir. And Bombay is near the sea. And I'll go there. All right, Jeannette, you please yourself. So I went down to Bombay.
And joined the governor's staff.
The governor's orchestra.
Yeah.
So
what sort of size orchestra? What sort of size orchestra would that
30.
be? 30.
There was the first trombone. He was the first class warrant officer. One of the violas was the second class warrant officer. And the rest of us, 28, were sergeants. But it was confirmed after a year. But you put up the 3 stripes, you're acting
sergeant.
For a year.
But yeah, and then it was confirmed.
Then it was confirmed,
yeah.
See, and that's what happened to me.
And you were obviously first clarinet in that.
Yes, the proper first clarinet, he was going to, there were only 2 clarinets, he was going to Nunner Hall as a student.
Oh.
That's why they wanted me.
And
the other one, who was there, he was on holiday in the UK, see?
Right, so he didn't have anyone.
I took up. And Gough, he went to Nunner Hall, and I forgot the name of the chap who was on leave, 6 months leave. He came back.
Was that a good band to work for?
Oh, it was beautiful, beautiful.
Sounded good.
They were all bloody fine players.
Yeah.
Very fine players.
Well trained.
Oh, yes. They were all mature men.
Yeah.
You know. And there was a harpist. He was also the pianist.
A harpist as well.
Yes. There was two of everything: the brass and the woodwind, two oboes, two flutes, two clarinets, two bassoons, two trumpets, three trombones, and a timpanist.
Did you have a French?
Two basses.
Did they have any French horn at all?
Oh yes, they had two French horns here. One of them was the son of the director of music, the ex-Berkshire Regiment.
What happened now about this? The governor getting a kick out of dance music?
Well, he did, because the jazz was starting.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you about the Southern Singing.
Yeah.
And he got it, and he told the director of music that we must play some of this jazz thing. It was just dance music, and he did. And we used to play on the side because we all had dinner suits. We had to have dinner suits. We used to play on the side, Bombay. But
in the little clubs?
No, it was usually the Western India Club of Western India Racing Club.
Yes,
all the Bursars, all the big shots. But when it came to March, which is the beginning, it's getting hot. It's getting hot. We used to move up to Mablishwar, about 7,000 feet. It's cool.
Cooler.
Just the government of India, the government of Bombay used to go up there with their staff and the governor. There was only locals there, not many. And then after 6 weeks, it was beginning to get a bit cool up Mablishwar. We used to come down to Kirkee, which is next to Pune. That's about 5,000 feet up, and it's just nice, you know. And we used to stay there until the whole of the government of Bombay used to stay there until October, end of September, beginning of October.
Then they come back down. They try to keep their temperature.
Well, that's what happened every year.
Yeah.
You go up the top, down to the...
And then down again,
And that happened for the 5 years. When my time was, we got a new director of music. The director of music is supposed to do 12 years, and he did his 12 years, and he had to go. He left his son in the orchestra, and we got a new bloke, and I didn't like him. So 6 months before my time was coming up, because I'd been there 4.5 years. With the 1.5 I started with, and the 3 I bought for 50 quid. It was coming up 4.5 years. I told him. And all the time the 6 months was going through, he would follow me as we walked up to Government House to play. We walk up there at 8 o'clock. Play for 2 hours every night, doing dinner. And he wanted me to stay on, take on. It meant to take on for another 5 years regular, making it 12. See, it goes 7 and 5, 12, and 21 for a pension. No, I wanted to get home because I was ambitious. The jazz was working hard, and I wanted to go back. I wanted to get home.
Were you actually yourself playing jazz solos at this time?
No, there was no such thing. We knew nothing about jazz.
It was dance music, really?
Dance music, just dance music. Playing off the printed dance copy. And time came when he tried to do me. He did do me in a way. He sent me, instead of arranging that I get a ship at Bombay, he sends me to the local regiment, the Shropshire Light Infantry. They're stationed in Pune, which is next door to Kirkee, and I joined them. And the bandmaster said, I don't know what we're going to do with you, Sergeant. He said, I said, well, I haven't had any leave for 3 or 4 years. Oh, well, he says, there's a ship going a troop ship going in 3 weeks' time. Why don't you go off somewhere? So I did. I had some friends down in Avonagher, which is about 150 miles away, because he was in the Dublin Fusiliers too.
I see.
Had been when he joined the Indian Army in what they call the grass farms. They provide fodder because we still had horses. Mules.
I see. Yes, they provide all the horse feed.
Mules and horses.
Yeah.
They provide it by contracting with local growers of grass. They call it grass.
They're like the middlemen.
Yes. Anyway, I went and stayed with them for 3 weeks. And troop ship back home. And then I went to Dublin. And I gigged around in Dublin.
What sort of gigging work was that? Was that dance?
Dance music.
Yeah.
No jazz. I didn't know what it was all about. But it was creeping in. You know, fellas wanted to know what it was all about. And
can you remember any of the bands that you would play with in Dublin?
In Dublin? No, it was a different band every night. One that I played with more than others was he was a pre-war dance band leader. I may think of it. No, I can't. Think. Anyway,
but it was a well-known band in Dublin.
Oh, he was the
top.
He knew nothing about jazz or anything. You know, he could play a Viennese waltz. And the schottisch and the bonita and all that. Anyway, one of the bands I played with, Manahan. M-A-N-A-H-A-N, Manahan. It's the Irish, Manahan. Had an offer. There was a big night in Piccadilly. There was a place called, I've forgotten its name. They had 2 bands. One was Alfredo.
Oh, not New Prince's?
Yes.
Yeah, New Prince's restaurant.
Yes. And it was upstairs. It was Alfredo. He used to be a variety.
Yeah, like a vagabond
violinist. In fact, that was his billing.
Yeah, dressed up as a gypsy.
Yes. Yeah, he used to flowing mode. Velvet coat. Anyway, he had a band. Pretty good. Because they had played in Dublin for several weeks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they made such a big hit. The Dublin people went, you know,
crazy for it.
Because they were on the edge of the jazz business, you see. And the Dublin people loved it. You know. So much so that they stayed on for a little while longer, and their owners in the new Prince's crowd invited a Dublin band.
To come over as like a return trip.
Return for St. Patrick's Night.
I see. Yes.
Big night.
Yeah.
So I went with them. They asked me to come because I knew London, and I spent several of my leaves there, going through back and forwards to France. I knew London pretty well. Anyway, I played with them, but I wasn't going back. Because I met a fellow who had been in the governor's band, Sally Grayson. He was a trumpet, one of the 2 trumpets. In fact, his brother was one of the British Army bandmaster. And he said, I'll show you Archer Street, Joe. And he showed me Archer Street. I said, it was on a Monday. I don't know what night, Patrick's night was. Anyway, he showed me Archer Street. It was Monday around about 12, and it was packed with musicians.
All trying to get gigs. And
that's the only time for gigs. Anyway, a fella came to me and said, somebody tells me that you've been out in India. I said, yeah, I've been there for nearly 5 years. He said, I've got a job at the Grand Hotel Calcutta. Would you be interested? I said, if the money's right. I said, what? Well, the money was. And furthermore, you stayed in the hotel. You had your own room in the hotel, and you dined and had your meals in the restaurant in the hotel. The Grand Hotel. It was the biggest hotel.
So it was a good job.
Up to a point. On the way out, on a piano liner, I found that this leader, he couldn't read music.
What was his? Can you
He's
remember
a
his
pianist.
name?
Yeah. Jimmy Voot. Vooght. Jimmy Voot. He'd come from Shepherd's Hotel, so he said, in Cairo. And he brought two of his friends with him. One was a banjo player. They played banjos those days. I'm talking about 1926. And a trombone. It was an ex-army trombone player. He liked his jar too much. And there were three of us from Archer Street, myself, the trumpet, Parfrey, and the drummer. He had a limp, young chap. He played piano a bit. It's a good job he did. I've forgotten his name.
Had a limp.
Anyway, it was got to be a little bit blasphemous. It was like Jesus on the cross for the next 12 months with me. Because I knew some of the fellas in the governor's band in Bengal, in Calcutta. And they said, for Christ's sake, what are you doing with this lot? Well, they have an annual charity concert. And they said, Joe, we'd like you to play with us for the concert. So I had a contract with this fella. I said, they want me to say, well, you can't do it, because we were kept like that. He wouldn't let me. He said,
just for that one night?
Just for the one night. He said, if you do, I'll sue you. You're on the contract. Came Sunday. There used to be a palm court thing. And when the governor's band were up in the hills, you see, the resident band
would
do the thing. So I had to do it. I had to pick a program. I don't know why. I was the only real musician, ex-Nella Hall. And the drummer. Every morning I used to take the drummer for a couple of hours. I used to pick a program for the Sunday. Real Grand Hotel stuff. There was there'd be a bit of, and I knew all the stuff. Gilpin Sullivan.
Oh yes.
A bit of Rigoletto. All that stuff. And I used to teach it. Literally teach. Because he didn't know. But he could play a bit, and we managed to get through. And I'd be sitting up there. I had to engage a violinist from outside. He was a Czech, Halleck, Halek, Halleck, Victor Halleck. He was floating around. There were a lot of fellas floating around the east. This fellow was good. Oh, he was good.
So it sounds as if you were sort of holding the band together and getting all the stuff arranged for it.
I'm afraid I was. And I was stupid, because I could have held him up, because I was the only one who could do anything. And he couldn't. And it wasn't in my contract to conduct or lead. That wasn't in my contract. And when I look back, looking backward, which is part of that word we're looking for, looking backward, I could have held him up. I was stupid.
So what happened? How did you come to leave the Grand Hotel in Calcutta?
We were there for a year.
Yeah. Oh, and the contract finished.
My mother was housekeeper to Lord Adair down in Limerick. Big mansion down there. The mansion had one of those fireplaces that you can sit into, that old type thing.
Yeah.
And she was the housekeeper, and she's down in the kitchen. She's a big woman. That's her. That's my wife's mother. That's my mother.
Yeah.
And in fact, she'd been in the 5-star hotel in Dublin as one of the chefs at one time. Yes, as the sweet chef. But here she was the housekeeper, and her dress caught fire. And she was a big woman, freezing from the shock killed her. I got a telegram, a cable, so I said, I gotta go home. And it's within a couple of days of the 12 months. And just then, this Voot and his wife disappeared. They disappeared. Discovered. Owing us 10 weeks' pay. And the manager said we didn't play anymore. I told the manager, and he got the wires going, and he had them stopped at Aden. What we managed, and I got a solicitor, a European solicitor in Calcutta. We didn't get our 10 weeks' pay, but we got our 600 rupees each that we had to deposit as good faith. We were all on the same, the three of us. And I'm talking about the three of us who came from London. The others, I couldn't give a damn about them. I don't know what they were getting. We were getting just nearly £12 in English money. I forgot what it was, rupees. What was it, 15 rupees the quid? 180? I've forgotten. It was nearly 12 quid a week. We had all found first class in the restaurant, in the hotel. It was at that time, in the late 20s, it was marvellous. It was very good. Anyway, I gotta go. So the hotel were very good. They paid. It was Armenian owned. And they paid for my passage. Anyway, I came home. And as I say, it was too late. Mother had been buried. And I gigged around, as I told you.
In Dublin?
In Dublin. For 3 months after this March. When
you went back to London?
Back to London with the band. And then I moved off to Archer Street. And, you're standing there with your instrument and say, what's that, alto? You play the alto? Yeah. You any good? I said, I think so. They're stuck. They're stuck. So you get, and then the word goes round. I heard a fella last night who says, that is if you're any good. The word soon goes round if you're any good.
If you're any good, yeah.
Anyway, I was lucky. Such what I got to know fellas. And Harry Bentley, he introduced me he said, Joe, I'll introduce you to a very fine saxophone player, Joe Crossman, in Archer Street. So Joe was single, so they used to come to, just for, a lot of the single fellas used to come to Archer Street just to chat. They were already working, but they used to come find out where so-and-so.
So this is where you met
Joe. Joe. And Joe says, Harry tells me you're quite a clarinet player. Well, I said, it's my instrument. So I studied with Charles Draper. He was professor at the academy. He said, I'd like to play clarinet better than I do now. I said, I'm only fiddling at it. So I used to call it, he lived in Gower Street. He had a room in Gower Street. I used to call on him in the morning. I used to do the job of waking him. And I had a lot of clarinet music, duets, trios, quartets, things. But he brought with him one morning, he said, I've got Pearlie Breed and Jack Miranda, who were the other two saxophones in Ambrose's band. I knew nothing about Ambrose's band. Never heard of it. Anyway, they came to Joe's room, and I had some quartets. And before we played together, I'm Joe musical director,
Yeah, doing the quartet.
God, Jack Miranda was a very good jazz clarinet player.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, at that time, I was playing with little group.
Mm.
Where were we playing?
Not
for Hilton.
Eel Pie Island.
Eel Pie Island, yes. And Joe rang me.
Who was the lead? Who was the leader of that group on the Eel Pie?
Murray Barley.
Murray
Barley, B-A-R.
Were you doing arrangements at this time?
No, what I was doing was I was taking the stuff off the records.
Off the American records.
Off the,
Just transcribing.
Yeah. Transcribing, if you like. The Red Nichols.
5 pennies, yeah.
The 5
Joe
pennies.
Venuti and
Joe Venuti,
all the rest, yeah.
I was taking it out, and I used to have to buddy his Stanley for change.
Mm.
I used to buddy them about it, change them around.
Yeah.
Because if I was playing one of Jimmy Dorsey's or Benny Goodman's choruses,
yeah,
and it was followed by a trombone, we had no trombone.
Oh, I see.
I would give the stuff to Joe Burns, who played the fiddle. You see, and that's the way I had to buddy the things.
Oh, I
like
see, yes, to make it fit for the different instrumentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because what did we have? Piano drums. And they were all pretty good.
Can you remember any of the other people in it, apart from Burns?
Joe Burns was the fiddle. Harry
Hayes?
No, I'm thinking the piano. We'd taken their place. It was a small band. Harry Hayes had left. He'd gone to the Savoy with Rich Patton, I think.
No, Elizalde.
The other one.
Elizalde.
Elizalde, yes. He was a good player.
Yeah.
Marvelous player. Right now, Joe Burns. Lou Stevenson was the drummer. He became the best bongo man we had at that time, because the thing came out, new dance step before the Congo.
Rumba.
The rumba,
yeah.
yes. And Lou took up the thing, you know. And we had a tenor. Forgotten his name.
Was it purely transcribed jazz that you were playing then? It wasn't.
The jazz was purely transcribed.
It wasn't improvised.
No. It was supposed to. There used to be fellows from Marcia Street in the band room listening.
Really?
Yeah.
So it had a reputation.
Well, it got around.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It got around.
Yeah. And what you were playing clarinet and alto in it?
Clarinet and alto. So I took all the Jimmy
Dorsey. Yeah. Good
and one or two others. There was one Riverboat Shuffle. What's his name?
Adrian Don Murray.
Don Murray.
Yeah. He was a good player.
He was a good player. Yeah. I'd say he was a good player. Yes.
Oh, you used to transcribe his stuff as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he was good lot. I think Miff Mole was on trombone.
Miff Mole, yes.
Oh, the regular ones.
Yeah. So this is when you got to go to Ambrose, isn't it? When you were on Eel Pie Island.
Yeah.